It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the three business owners of Truth Be Told Sports. How are y'all doing today?
Good, man. We're doing fantastic, Brandon. Thank you for having us on.
Yes, thank you.
Mike, can you talk about how y'all got started with the sports podcast?
Actually, Melvin started it with someone else, and then he approached us. We have a group on Facebook called Truth Be Told Sports Group, and we all kind of were posting in there. And Melvin was doing his podcast, and then he came to me asking if I'd be interested in doing it with him because the other guy was unavailable. And it's progressed from there to us. We had another girl on the show with us. She had some personal things come up. She became unavailable. And now we've got stuck with Hollow Point down there.
Wait a minute.
He's actually stepped this show up. I think he brings a different vibe. He's actually added some life to it. He's added life to me on the show. Yeah. So we kind of came together as they grew up together. I met Melvin through a mutual friend. So we came together as three individuals. Right now we're spread across the country. So,
Melvin, what are some of the segments that you cover in your podcast?
Our show is pretty much like it's a laid back type vibe. We don't focus on stats too heavy. We do a lot of like just your normal, like if you walk into a barber shop and you hear this the barbers and the patrons talking about sports. We had that type of conversation, and it's been fun. It's been a blast doing it with these two guys who pretty much, like in my opinion, saved the show, because as Mike was talking about before, like we could have went under a long time with COVID hitting and just just trying to find out the chemistry of the show. But I think we hit it really we hit the nail on the head with what added Hollow Point to the show.
Hollow, how have y'all adapted due to COVID?
I think what we've done is we've kind of come together and to find kind of creative ways of creative topics on what to talk about. So when COVID hit, a bunch of the live sports, there were no live sports. So all we had were replays, and I think what happened was the last ride came on, and that was the whole
Last Dance
series. The Last Dance. I said The Last Ride. I'm thinking Undertaker.
Undertaker.
But anyway, The Last Dance happened with the Chicago Bulls, and that kind of helped us out week to week. We were talking about each episode that came out, because it was like 2 a week for 5 weeks or whatnot, and so we would talk about the episodes.
Yes.
And that would kind of help us. And then that coupled with a couple more creative ideas that we all came together with, and it allowed us to kind of extend
like the top
show.
5.
Right. Like things like that. Like top 5.
And
your
hot takes.
My hot takes of who people, just things like that, just different topics or different parts of the show that we can do. In general, like Mel said, the more of the barbershop talk, to where we could just talk with each other and basically hang out. It's just basically an excuse for us all to hang out. So that's what helped us out.
And that's what a lot of our episodes turned into.
Big facts.
Hollow, how did you come up with the hot take segment?
You know what? I can tell you straight up, man. And we could talk, right? I was angry a couple weeks in a row. People start talking about stuff that it's like, like the world is flat. It's not flat, right? So it's like, we're talking to me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this dude, or I'm going to talk about that dude. Whoever says something that's kind of off the cuff or something that makes absolutely no sense at all, I usually bring it up during the show, and just to say, hey, you need to go and sit down somewhere, because what you're saying doesn't make any sense to anybody.
Starting with Mike, what are some of your favorite moments that you've done in the podcast so far?
That's kind of where it happened.
Honestly, one of my most favorite moments came before Hollow Point was on the show, and that was the Kobe episode. We were actually had a show scheduled for that night. We were recording on Sundays at that time, and then Kobe Bryant passed away that morning. That show, it just brought a different side of us out. It allowed you to let a little more into us personally because there was so much emotion in that. The second favorite topic or thing that we've done on the show was the end of season 1, when we decided to split our seasons up and we all got to say thank you. And I said it then, and I'll say it to y'all now on YouTube. I give Hollow Point a hard time, but he really did make the show down this week.
You're sweet, man. You're a sweetheart, bro. Like, stop trying to be.
But those are my two favorite moments.
Mine,
because it brings you into a different realm of us as people, not just the barbershop guys.
Right. Mine would have to be the show we recorded like the day after Brandon and Bryce were born.
That was a good show.
That was a really good show. I mean, I don't know. I think I listened to it like twice. But I love the acknowledgement of the fact that that let me know that Mike was going to be with the show to stay, and I need Mike to make our show successful as well. He came in, he stepped up, and he even acknowledged yo, don't, this guy is dedicated to the show. Like, how I know he's in the hospital. He just had twins the other day. Like, I wasn't gonna talk about the babies at all, but Mike brought it up, and I'm like, yeah, this is exactly why I'm working hard. This is exactly why I'm doing the things I do now.
Hello.
With me, my favorite episode is probably one that we did live. We did the live on the Truth Be Told podcast page on Facebook. And what we did was we took a little break from sports, and we started talking about a couple of the social issues, the injustice that was happening. So it was great because you had me and Melvin, who are basically, we came up kind of from the same neighborhoods, from the same area, same upbringing and whatnot. And it was me and him, and then we had Mike, and then another one of our moderators on the page, Cody.
Yeah.
And we were all talking about, BLM and social injustice, police brutality, and the whole nine. And everybody had a good take, and it was a healthy conversation, and everybody got to get their angst out and everything. We talked, and it was great. That was probably one of my favorite episodes.
Mike, what have you learned so far while doing it that you did not know beforehand?
Well, going into that, I didn't have any expectations coming into it, but the one thing I have learned is not to be so nervous. It's so timid. The first time I listened to an episode of me talking on it, I stopped it halfway through because I couldn't listen to myself talk. Now I let loose more. I'm kind of, when I'm shy, I get a little more proper. Now just let loose and have a lot of fun. And that's what I would say to anyone right now. The thing that you don't know going in is how you're going to act. If you just be yourself and relax, it's going to make your life way better on the show. You'll have fun.
Max, what have you learned that you didn't know beforehand of starting Truth Be Told Sports?
I think the biggest thing I learned is to trust myself and trust other people. That's the biggest thing I learned with that. I know when I started the show that the direction I wanted to go, but having two other people, just as dedicated, just as committed as I am to pushing this show to where, the heights that we are right now from where we started, and plus we have goals, and we want to take it further. So just to have two guys that are just as committed means the world to me. You know what I'm saying? So if you're gonna start your own show, if you're gonna do, just be committed and have a team around you that's just as committed as you are. That's the biggest thing I learned out of this, and I appreciate these two dudes forever.
Hollow, what have you learned that you didn't know beforehand?
Well, the one thing that I actually learned was just basically how to handle different, just put your hands in a lot of different pots at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of us, a lot of things that we do during the show are collaborated. And so there's things like putting together a show or editing a show or promoting all the things that you have to do necessarily for this thing to be successful. We've been marketing everything. So it's just, I've learned a lot in terms of how to connect to different groups, how to get yourself out there as far as social media platforms. And I've also learned a little bit as far as like, digital, how everything connects. So I've learned that.
Mike, who are some of the future guests that you're going to have on your show that you're trying to reach out to?
Actually, Hollow Point kind of handles the reaching out to
does.
people. He is our social media guru. We actually just talked earlier, and I'm not going to drop any names because I want to talk to this guy first. But I've actually became friends with a guy who played foreign ball overseas, played basketball overseas. He played at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and then went on to play overseas. So I want to talk to him and actually try to have him on the show to give us an insight of what it's like playing a professional sport and then coming back to the state, one living out of the country and then coming back to the States. So to give us an insight of how they handle their sports over there versus how we will or how we do.
Yeah, definitely.
Hollow, who are some people that you've interviewed before?
We've had a couple interviews. So we've had one of our collabo guys, Doug Smith. We had him. He has his own YouTube spot and he does his own podcast. And shout out to him. We've also had a couple. A couple guys that we know from the group. A lot of interviews lined up. Like I made a lot of requests for interviews for some people. Like you said, I don't want to mention too many names because nothing's been confirmed. But we have a lot on the burner as to who we want to talk to, and a lot of interest has been coming up through the show. So stay tuned.
Hollow, do you reach out to any college coaches?
I have reached out to a couple. Not too many as of late, because I've been focusing on just with the NBA going and with the NBA, NFL, because for a while college wasn't even going to be a thing. So we kind of, our focus kind of shifted to more of the pros. But now that the college football is in kind of full swing, I'm going to start reaching out to the coaches and seeing if we can get a couple of them to come on, at least for a couple minutes, to talk about their program and all that stuff.
Max, starting with you, what advice would you give upcoming future sports talk podcasts?
The best advice I would be as organic as possible and just ignore the haters. There are going to be people out there that are going to tell you that you can't do it, that you shouldn't do it, that it's impossible. Just ignore them. Like, just know yourself and work hard and trust your instincts.
Hollow, what advice would you give upcoming future sports talk podcasts?
Don't create reasons to not do it. I would say just get out there. Don't be afraid. You're gonna fail first, but like the great Will Smith says, always fail forward.
There you go.
As long as you fail forward, you'll be fine. So that's what I would say to the sportscasters coming up. Don't be afraid to fail. Just fail forward. Just learn from your mistakes. Always build. Like, you always want to learn something from each podcast that you do, right, and you want to use that to make the next one better.
Mike, what advice would you give upcoming sports talk podcasts looking to get into the profession?
Kind of on the same line of them, don't Don't worry about what other people say. Do your thing. Make yourself happy. We've said it numerous times. If we do this because we have fun, it's not about, yes, we want to progress. Yes, if you're a future person, you want to progress and get bigger. But if you're making it solely about that, you're not going to have fun. You can't worry about the numbers. You can't worry about negative feedback. Just go on there and have fun and do what you want. Obviously, you want to be entertaining and get listeners, so appeal to them, but do you.
Hollow, where can my listeners find Truth Be Told Sports Podcast at on social media along with podcast platforms?
You could find us on Apple. You can find us on Google Play. You could find us on Spotify. You could find us on Castbox, Radio Republic. As far as social media, we're on Truth Be Told. We have a Facebook group, Truth Be Told Sports. We have a page, Truth Be Told Sports Podcast. We also have Twitter. Truth Be Told, we have a www.truthbetoldsportspodcast.com.
Oh, you cannot
Moneyline Media.
Any of those places.
Oh, also you can look us up on download the Moneyline Media app. There you will find podcasts like Truth Be Told Sports Podcast. You will find podcasts like Talk Talk Podcast with our friends Dominic and Tyler. As I say, the Truth Be Told Sports site.com, TruthBeToldSportsPodcast.com.
That's all the platforms.
That's it.
Thank you again, all three of y'all, for this interview, and best of luck with Truth Be Told Sports Podcast.
We appreciate you, Brandon. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for having us.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, y'all, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you, guys. Rest in peace, Kobe.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.